Welcome, beautiful souls, beautiful beings. Welcome back to a crystalline temple. Today is gonna be a little switch up in my usual content. As you can see, bam, we're gonna be talking today about some of my favorite animes. And I already made like a super long list. So I can't get through all of them, but I'm not necessarily recommending these because they're popular, but some of them are, and that's for a very fair reason. I'm recommending them because they actually say something about being a human or about spirituality, lessons. A lot of these deal with power, grief, discipline, overcoming shadows, freedom, pretty much the stuff you don't really get taught how to sit with. So you gotta watch a ton of animes to like decipher the codes of reality. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this video because I'm stoked. But we're gonna start off with Dandadan. Okay, we're gonna start off with Dandadan. Anyways, let me be real. Dandadan looks chaotic, but it's actually really intentional, and it is a little bit chaotic. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say it's not, okay? I like how this anime, one, the animation is great. Love the animation. It's not too far off from the manga, manga, whatever you want to call it. But underneath all of that, it's about fear and belief. We have Okarun, I want to say the second main character of the show, who's this super nerdy, insecure kid who has like no friends. And once he gets possessed by Turbo Granny, he takes on this whole alter ego of being super confident, super cool guy, mellow, intense. And I love that. I love how it shows the diversity of one person. And regardless if it's, it's a bit toxic about possession and everything, it does speak volumes about like there are other aspects of ourselves that shine through certain experiences and certain moments. And you notice how this character only really transforms when needed. So I love that. And Momo, the main character, she carries this like intuitive, inherited power. And I love that. I love the symbolism behind it. I love the culture behind it because not a lot of people want to talk about people with psychic abilities, like, and how much of a different world they are perceiving. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, well, if you have psychic abilities, then you're demonic. And then I love how they just own it. Like, this is what I am. My grandmother does this and this and this. These are spiritual gifts that have been passed down. And these characters see the world completely different than like most of the other background NPC characters in the anime. And for me, it really just shows how fear gains power through attention. The more you focus on it, the stronger it becomes. And how facing it changes literally everything. So I'm going to leave that there. If you have not seen Dandadan, I highly recommend it. It is hilarious, by the way. Moving on to my next top favorite anime. This anime, my partner introduced to me like beginning of our relationship. And I'm so happy he did because it has become one of those animes where it's like, okay, this is like up here. Where do I rank everything else? It has such a good character arc, character development, and storyline. And it's crazy because I talk to a lot of people and they don't even know about this anime. So we're gonna get into it because if you don't know, now you know. Walking in a crowd in a faceless town, I need to feel a touch of a friend. Oh, and I feel like crying. Oh my, it's time to open myself, do something new. I wanna stop, grow up a bit. This is one of those animes that once again gets overlooked, and but it understands the spirit world without romanticizing it. Cause some animes be a little too dark, and it's like a little, a little rough for me to be watching. But this one, I particularly enjoyed the dark tournaments, especially what loyalty and integrity look like under pressure. Also, y'all, the hella muscular guy in the photo, yeah, he's super, super annoying. His name is Goro. He's like one of the major villains of the show. And he's always like, this is not even my full strength, blah, 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 blah. So we're not going to get into him. We're going to ignore him. Okay, goodbye. And Yusuke, Kurama, all his homies, they really made the show better simply by their character dynamics and their growth throughout the series. And I love how Yusuke, this whole time, he was part of a powerful lineage and he didn't even know. And Yusuke isn't like a polished character, but he is honest. And Kuwabara has the heart. Hiei is a shadow being. He lives in the shadow, but he's a heart. He ain't completely, he goes through his troubles. He goes through his troubles, but as we get through the show, you realize he has a space for a particular loved one for a reason. And Kurama is the personification of restraint. Like he's very mindful of when he uses his powers, when he needs to feel, and I really love that. And all in all, this show just reminds you that the good doesn't mean being perfect, it means being real. And being real looks different to everybody, but showing up authentically as who you are is really what Yu Hakusho talks about. And working together, pushing yourself to limits that you don't even know, and breaking through. I feel like a lot of times we go through so many challenging things in life, suffering, grief. We forget that through those moments make us stronger, but to intentionally choose to keep pushing, to keep training, to keep growing is inevitably what Yu Yu Hakusho represents to me. So I completely forgot. We can't forget about Poof. Okay? Poof is Yusuke's spirit animal. It represents Yusuke's power, his source, his essence. This is in his final form. I'm not gonna ruin what his final form is, but just know Poof is so cute. He makes a lot of mistakes, he's a little clumsy, but he has good intentions, okay? He just be trying to help Yusuke throughout the anime, but Yusuke be a meanie to Poof. But anyways, I just wanted to add that. Moving along. I don't think y'all know what time it is, but you're gonna find out. See, as you can see, the next anime is nothing other than One Piece. And I don't care. I don't want to hear it. It's too many episodes and it's a commitment. And well, guess what? Somebody got to make continuous anime nowadays. I love a long story. I love growth. I love the arcs. But most importantly, I love the music. Yo ho ho ho, yo oh oh, yo ho ho ho, yo oh oh. They're up before the crew. It's time to ship out the and brew. Pirates, we internally are challenging the seas. Says resting dead, ship beneath us as our beds. Hoisted high upon the mast, our jolly Roger flies. Somewhere in the endless sky, stormy winds are blowing high. And still sunny days return. Yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho. I could go on and on and on. Anyways, I feel like One Piece at its deepest sense is about freedom, the intensity and the connection between One Piece and modern day and what we're going through currently. Let's just replace all of our flags with Straw Hat Pirates and Jolly Roger flag. Let's just do it. Because the more that I watch this anime, even though it's about pirates, there's still themes of government, of control, of manipulation, trafficking, how people really treat each other in the past and in the present. And I love how the Straw Hat Pirates represents a shift of like, yeah, I'm a pirate. I'm rebellious. I do what I want, but I have good intentions. I'm not necessarily a hero, but since I live with this sense of morale, the interactions that I have, I've gained friendships, I've gained trust through being who I am. And also just like the randomness of how Luffy picks all of his crew members. It's random, but it's also like as you go through the season, you realize there is a bit of intention behind it. Like he knows who he wants on his team and in his crew. And my favorite, you know, Brooks, clearly, and Chopper. Chopper is so freaking cute. Um, Also, the moment when Robin screams, "I want to leave," yo, that hit me. I just remember being like, damn, I've been there before, and being cared for and saved and considered and acknowledged by someone you may not even know, but someone who deeply loves and respects you just from a few simple interactions, that takes a lot of heart and love. And I love that theme of this anime. Obviously, there's so many other pirate crews, and I have my favorite characters from some of them as well. But overall, it's such a long investment. Yeah, whatever. But the show really shows oppression, chosen family. Like you might be abandoned by your blood, disowned by your blood, but we choose our crew, we choose our family, and joy is resistance. It's not about escaping the pain, and it's not about letting the pain harden you. It's about being the change that you wish to see and coming together to make a change. And hopefully, everybody in the world watches this anime and they decide to align with Luffy. Although, like I said, there's some other decent pirate crews, don't get me wrong. But just to create a better world, we must come together. We must resist the the governs of the mentals, and I'm just gonna leave that there. Love One Piece. I've been watching it for years. It's definitely one of those animes I had to take a break from and then like watch a different anime and then come back to it. So I still recommend you investing into it because you see the evolution through the seasons and through the arcs of this anime of you think there's always going to be a hero's journey moment when really it's like sometimes the villain does take control and that's reality. But it's like how much are you going to fight? How much effort are you going to put in to change your reality and not become defeated? And I think Luffy represents liberation. And I think that in itself is powerful. I also love how each arc or each season it has a different type of animation style. You can see the progress in animation and the growth within the characters visually, and I love that. The next anime I don't have any attire for at the moment, but it is called To Your Eternity. Y'all, this anime hit different. This one is heavy, very existential. I wouldn't recommend it lightly, but obviously it ain't no like Demon Slayer, so it is a great anime. It talks about the themes of the creator and the creation and Fushi being the main character. And it's so hard because I don't want to spoil it because it's one of those animes. But essentially, he's given this awareness and these powers from somewhere to experience life and create life and be life and bring back life. And he struggles with the battle between the knockers, and the knockers, they have their own representation for however you want to perceive them to be. And he goes through different times, different ages, and he creates these bonds with people. And in the current season we're in right now, we're seeing him learn humanity and what it is like to be a human, because even though he can embody humans, bring people back to life and his friends, he still doesn't know certain human emotions, and he's learning to feel and he's learning to be more like a human and come from a human understanding and also just to let go. And it's just very, very deep. And then there is like this opposing force, the leader of the knockers, which I don't want to spoil too much, but this is a generational curse in a way passed down through one bloodline who is obsessed with Fushi, and I'm gonna leave that there. Um, Fushi learns what it means to exist through attachment and loss simply. And the show teaches us that loss isn't a punishment, it's how the soul learns depth. So it's very deep. I love all the aspects of it. I dislike the knocker family a lot because they're super annoying and obsessive and narcissistic and toxic, but people really be like that out there. So I highly recommend To Your Eternity, and it's not a super long anime. In fact, if you wanted to binge it, I'm sure you could binge the anime in like 2-3 days and be caught up. Um, but highly recommend y'all. Next up on the list is Jujutsu Kaisen. Duh. I love the character dynamics of this anime. It is a bit dark, okay? Um, to say the least, but I don't know, it's just such a interesting theme and storyline that typical to like a lot of other animes. I feel like a lot of animes have a similar storyline, but Yuji carries compassion, and Gojo is the personification of power without grounding, and Sukuna is ego without conscious. Obviously, you can decipher them however you choose and what relates to you as you watch these animes. And please leave a comment below of what you've learned from these animes and how these certain characters symbolize something for you, because it may be different, but all in all, I feel like this anime shows what you repress does not disappear. It literally mutates, and you can see this through each season. And there's also a new season out now. If you haven't seen it yet, I suggest you get on the roll. I don't know, this recent season, I'm still like processing because it's kind of all over the place. It's grounding a bit and getting there, but I don't know. It's definitely a little bit different than the last few seasons. Shibuya. I think that's the name. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. But the whole incident there is where ideals collide with reality. So you have this city, this space, you have this environment where people are living their day-to-day lives, and so you have these jujutsu students who are trained in multiple areas of destroying demons and ancient dark arts, and obviously physical martial arts as well. And they once again perceive the world and reality to be different, and they're trying to save, the collective. And then unfortunately, things happen, and we're in the season that we are currently in. And we're seeing just the dark side of life and spirituality, but also I think that these definitely coexist within people as well, like the darkness, the ignorance, the need for power and control to whatever ends means necessary. And it's very, very revealing. And then another thing that I find actually kind of hilarious is Yuji munching on Sukuna's fingers and gaining some dark powers, and then Sukuna lives within inside of him. And then once he reaches his like close to death moments, he arises from within him and just takes over. Throughout the first two seasons of Jujutsu Kaisen, you start to see Yuji as Sukuna, and sometimes I'm like, wait, this isn't Yuji, this is Sukuna. But was it though? So I don't know. I still feel like they're so intertwined. They share the same vessel, but it's a whole brain fart for me. I'm still digesting that. And then you got Gojo out here, nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found yet. But I mean, at least that's where I left off, and I don't wanna ruin anything for those who haven't seen it. Also, just to continue, like, it's interesting because Yuji is the only one capable of like actually suppressing Sukuna, and even if he consumes all of this, even if he consumes all of Oboe's fingers, weird kink by the way, I think we can still see him have some type of control over his body. So Yuji within himself has this special gift and ability. So it turns out that Yuji is actually related to Sukuna, and so obviously that makes sense why he has control over his body and power while consuming these gross looking ass fingers, but at the same time it makes sense because he is the reincarnation of an ancestor. And I'm curious to see what'll happen when he does eat all the fingers. Another anime that I really enjoyed was Mob Psycho 100. I'm salty because it was short and I wish it was longer. I loved this anime and I'm so sad because I don't feel like there's enough episodes to satisfy how good it was. That's just my opinion personally. But Mob Psycho is quietly one of the most grounded animes I've watched when it comes to spirituality and abilities. I think I like it too because it also kind of aligns with Dandadan just a little bit. I think they have very similar themes and ideas of this super nerdy, introverted student trying to fit in, but he has like all these mystical, spiritual, psychic gifts, and then he goes to this guy who's literally a con artist, but somehow is making it work and ends up doing all these jobs using this kid. And I think eventually the kid finds out and he's just like, I don't want to do this anymore, blah blah blah. But moral of the story is great. I love the adventures. I love the mythology that they include. I love the storytelling, and a lot of the stories are based off of true myths and, you know, what they want to call myths. But I highly recommend this anime. It's funny as well, but it is, it's one of those animes where you want more. You just like, I need another episode. This can't be the end. Please, no. Also, I'm gonna go back real quick and complain about Dandadan because I loved the animation. I felt like the episodes were too short, but that's just me being a hater because I wanted it to be longer. And the seasons were too short, and I am definitely impatient, but also I know it takes a long time, it takes energy, effort to create a great anime. So shout out to all those who have created it, but just know I want longer episodes. The next anime, I don't think a lot of people have heard of it. It's called Heavenly Delusion. I'm at a point where I'm just gonna read the manga because I don't feel like waiting on a new season if there will be another season. But this one is so prophetic and it is kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I feel like I love eerie animes to an extent, but they have to have some type of meaning and depth and spiritual mystery and thriller to it. Um, I mean, I guess I kind of like dark animes too, because Berserk, he's on the list, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Anyways, Heavenly Delusion is where it explores the innocence, the trauma, the vulnerability, and survival after collapse, and also like the illusion of how we think we know what we are, and who we are, and where we live, but come to find out this whole time it's been an illusion. It's been orchestrated for you to perceive it in a certain way, in a certain lighting, and it slowly reveals that paradise comes at a cost. This whole time, there's out here doing experiments on little children. System falls apart, characters become more and more revealed, and they start to have more and more realizations. And I love the archetypes of, questioning. You have the characters who question, like, what is it that we're in? Why am I in it? Why am I here? Why do we have to be separated? where did this person go? And like kids are just going missing, and it takes those few characters to be like, mostly one really, but it takes a few characters to be like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. We see through the BS, and we're gonna take our power back. And yeah, like I highly recommend it. It's great. I want there to be more seasons, but gotta be patient or whatever. Y'all, listen. I rewatched Dragon Ball last year. Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Daima. I just finished last month. Currently watching the movies. I still have to say, Dragon Ball is my favorite, hands down. I do like Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Daima, but, but there's some missing. Something missing. And honestly, Dragon Ball Super was just like, that's literally me though. I'm like, but Dragon Ball, I love the character development. My favorite character is obviously Piccolo. And I also love Vegeta because I feel like Vegeta has the best character development. He sticks true to who he is, but then the whole twist of him ending up with Bulma, I was like, whoa. So, also, I've watched Dragon Ball when I was a children, but not enough for me to like remember. So it was super fun rewatching Dragon Ball last year, and Dragon Ball is definitely about discipline and talent, but also I feel like Goku has issues and he's obsessed with fighting. I feel like the more you watch each Dragon Ball, Z, even Super, you're just kind of like, yo, you need to relax, Goku. But just the fact that he's obsessed with fighting is just kind of like, you were my favorite character in Dragon Ball when you were running around the like with Chi Chi, the little kid. It was super cute and adorable. But then as he got older, I was like, oh, he's obsessed. He's obsessed with throwing the hands. And so obviously Piccolo, he started off as a villain or whatever, but was reborn, and he grew and ended up raising Goku's children, his child and his grandchild, low key. But it's just like so much growth, and Piccolo is definitely like, he's like that uncle, stepdad who's just very disciplined, especially when he combines with Kami. Um, I love that, but I also really love Dende. Everybody be sleeping on Dende. Dende is so adorable. I feel like he needs to, he's still learning. He's a little children in the game of, being the guardian of the planet and whatever, but he needs to get his shit together a little bit. Because he be acting like, yeah, I've seen everything that's going on. What are we gonna do? Like, Dende, sweetheart, you're supposed to be the guardian of the planet. You're supposed to be the one that's guiding us out. But you do see like his growth and everything, and I just love that. I think he's so adorable. Um, Honestly, I love the whole Namekian race. Personally, I feel like Dragon Ball had some pretty decent villains, pretty great villains. Um, a lot of them, of course, I didn't like, but I came to like Vegeta. Um, I'm not going to speak of the ones I don't like because their names should not be mentioned, and I don't want to think about them. But I love how the training, arcs, especially like the hyperbolic time chamber, show growth through repetition. And once you think you break through, that's only one level of breakthrough, and there's just so many, so many, so many more, and it seems like endless. And I feel like it can be kind of redundant with Dragon Ball, because you're like, how many times are you gonna become Goku Blue or blah blah blah? So there's so many different levels that it's kind of just like, okay, we get it, you reached another level, but within that, it takes integrity, it takes discipline, and Goku is endlessly becoming, and Vegeta is so ego refined, but it's through humility. And I just love their whole dynamic together, especially being, as we knew, in these past few Dragon Balls, that they are now like the last race, supposedly, of Saiyans outside of, their half breeds from Earth, but it still shows how they come together through all of that. And I just love Vegeta's growth. I will say this over and over and over again. And he has such a sad story. But now he got kids, and he's being a royal daddy or whatever. But strength definitely comes from consistency and not shortcuts. That's what I got from Dragon Ball. So yeah. Next up is going to be Boondocks. I don't care if you don't think Boondocks is an anime or not. Sorry. But this is an anime that I would recommend. Hands down, it's a little raunchy, but it's deep. And they're melanated. You know your left from your right. And the ballad in the box, the bullet in your gun, the interglow that lets you know the call of the sun, the story that just begun, the promise of what's to come, and I'ma remain the soldier till the war is won, won, won. Chop, chop, chop. Dun, 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 dun. Chop, chop, chop. That intro goes hard, y'all. Are they gonna make a new season finally? Let's be real. Like, I want to know. In fact, I'm gonna look it up. We kept hearing year after year, we're gonna drop a new Boondocks season, but they never do. Nope, nothing. Nothing. It's ridiculous. But anyways, Boondocks isn't just for comedy. I think it shows the reality of the lower conscious and the higher conscious, especially within the melanated Black community. And it shows the reality of the different archetypes of the world, and especially the American society. And once again, this isn't just comedy, this is confrontation. Like, yes, this is funny and it's exposing reality, but really it's confronting serious things in a funny way so people can take it in. And anyways, overall, like, Boondocks is hilarious, and the truth does sound offensive when people are attached to the illusion. But when you see beyond the illusion, you can then be like, oh, this is deep. This is reality. Especially Uncle Ruckus, y'all. Stink Meaner. All of these characters have so much more intention than you may realize. On the surface, they may just seem like a funny character who's extra, but really deep down, people really be like that. Like, internalized hatred towards yourself, towards the people who look like you, and how that shapes your psychology and your mind. And it's just so deep. I would highly recommend it. It's a bit offensive, but take it with a grain of salt. And the more that I mature and I get older, the more that I realize that Boondocks was right. Like, this is literally for real. Um, I think it would be hilarious though if they did make a new Boondocks season and they put like Blueface in it. Oh my gosh, that would have been hilarious. And just all the modern things that are so mainstream right now into a Boondocks episode, you'll actually see how ridiculous they are and the underlying messages and the the system and how the system breaks people and the ignorance. I'm almost done, y'all. I'm so sorry. So my next anime that I loved is Hajime no Ippo, and it's essentially about this kid who's bullied in school and decides to start boxing. I love it because he starts off as like the dweeb and becomes someone who is respected with through consistency, through passion. He loves boxing and he's willing to understand people that are also boxers and why they choose to box, and it's just so much depth to it, and I just really love it. This is really about confidence building slowly through what you do and how you choose to change your reality. And I feel like the beginning, like Aibo's fights show his fear, but it also shows his discipline and his self-respect forming over time. Like, he's not necessarily afraid to lose. And especially how the body learns before the mind believes. I feel like this was really one of the major highlights of Ippo, and I have not watched the other season yet, the second season. Sadly so, because I'm waiting for it to be dubbed, even if it will ever be dubbed. Who knows? Maybe I'll just read the subtitles one of these days. Next up on the list, I have Berserk. Berserk started off as an anime crush when I was young, and don't ask me why, because it's a very toxic anime. But I was just like very obsessed with Berserk. But it's such a sad, sad story. It's about betrayal, abandonment, things I was feeling at the time for sure. But Berserk is not an easy anime. It's an honest anime. Guts, embodied endurance. He kept pushing through no matter how much pain, how much suffering he was going through. And Griffith, I strongly dislike Griffith. He represents what power looks like when it loses soul. Oh boy, really just betrayed him like that, and I kind of had a feeling. And pretty much power without grounding destroys everything that it touches. And I really am sad with how Berserk ended, but at the same time, it was great animation, great story. Definitely dark. Definitely dark. This is gonna be my last anime, and then I'm gonna add a few other ones that I really liked, and then we're gonna call it a day. JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. Listen, I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. It was finally one of those animes that was just so ridiculous that I needed it. I needed like the lightness, I needed the funny goofiness that came with it. And JoJo is about lineage and how things pass on, whether it's gifts, abilities, um, and how people who are envious of you or want what you have also that energy carries on through the lineage. Don't get me started with Dio, because Dio versus the Joestar bloodline isn't just a rivalry, it's inherited will, shadow, and identity passed through like the generations. And it's just really about you carry more than just your own story, and you can apply that to life and family and all these things that you experience now that you didn't ask for, just know that you are breaking more chains for your ancestors and the people who came before you than you may realize. But all in all, it's hilarious. I love how each season there's a different animation style. There's a different generation of the Joestar bloodline, and same with the same with Dio's bloodline. Even though he's just like an immortal vampire or whatever, super annoying character, super cocky, narcissistic, takes advantage of people, wants to be a god. Um, don't get me started. Don't get me started. But all in all, like I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. If you want a good laugh, you want to watch a goofy anime, I highly suggest JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. And I really liked Jolene a lot because I'm happy they finally put a female in their lineage. So I'm excited to see the new season. I think comes out this year. I think. Um. So yeah, I'm gonna end it with JoJo's Bizarre Adventures because I've been on here forever just talking about anime. But there are a few more animes I suggest. So I'm gonna suggest Shaman King. Shaman King. Was gonna put on the list, which I should have. I love it. I love all the spiritual animes. Another anime I really loved was Witch Watch, which was just more lighthearted, lovey-dovey. I also really enjoyed watching Ranking of the Kings. Too cute, also kind of sad, but very empowering. I think it's great story about ableism and breaking through disabilities and how your disability can be a superpower. Definitely recommend for the neurodivergent folks out there. I love that anime. Solo leveling. The game is fun on if you have like a mobile device, solo leveling game is pretty fun too. That's what I'm gonna leave y'all with today. If you haven't seen these animes or some of these animes, I recommend them when you're in the right headspace and when you're ready, not just bored. But some of them, like if you like JoJo, Dandadan, anytime watch. But they're not background shows. Like I feel like they are meant for you to be present and reflect on what it is projecting to you. And if you have seen these animes, you already know why. I chose these ones because, they are some solid animes. Once again, they're not for everybody, but yeah. Thank you so much for staying tuned to this video, and I'll definitely have another part because I'm always watching new animes. I'm not one of those people who are like super nerdy about anime. Actually, before I end, I'm gonna do a little rant for all of y'all who hate on people who watch anime, but you literally be out here watching the news. You literally be out here watching, what is it, Housewives of Atlanta, Family Guy. Stop. 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 Because anime is really all that I watch. I don't even really watch TV. I don't got cable, either Netflix, Crunchyroll, and maybe YouTube, and that's all I need. But if you're gonna be watching these stupid shows like the Kardashians, and you start hating on people because they like to watch anime, check yourself. Because what you're watching is literally sucks. Like anime is literally an art, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Like the amount of people who are like, this person watches anime. Like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, I'm offended because I love anime, and I don't think people think I love anime because I'm very introverted, even though I wear like an anime tee all the time. But it's just like, it's okay if you don't understand it. I understand there's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of fighting, but it's the depth for me. and the symbolism and the underlying meaning of anime. And that is all I have to say. Anyways, everybody have a great day. And if you guys have any anime recommendations, please leave a comment below. I'm expanding my list, and there's so many animes out there that I would like to get to. And if you guys have any resonance with any of these animes that I've watched, or the ones that you really enjoyed, or your opinions on them, please leave a comment below, because your perspective is important. I'm curious to what you guys have to say about these certain animes or whatever, but deuces. Keep it jiggy.